So today, I have made a bit of a commitment to myself. I try to stay fairly neutral in terms of these volatile subjects that are out there, and I just think sometimes that, I don't know how we create change without voicing discontent. And so without being condemning, and my lady Trisha has been such a great lesson to me in making me aware that there's this big difference between voicing discontent instead of condemnation, instead of being condemning. Condemning means we're going to, attack somebody's character, or belittle them, or call them something less as a result of their beliefs, instead of just kind of having a legitimate complaint about what those beliefs may be affecting. So here it is. I have my son, Jacob, 17. He's in his freshman year of college, and he is suffering from the same thing I did when I was in my freshman year of college, because we are both paying for our own education. I paid for mine, he's paying for his, and I believe that's a great way for kids to learn some of their first experience. And we have now seen where we think, the hotbed of liberal thinking, which is the collegiate system, deems that educations are worth such ridiculous money that now it pulls it out of the means of a normal person to be able to afford. And I think it's just super ridiculous that, number one, somebody tell me how when a college football coach at BSU, Boise State University, it's not like we're one of the giant schools, but not one of the small schools, state education, and we lost Coach Pete because he was making a mere $3.7 million to coach our football team, and he stuck around being willing to accept an unnaturally low number comparatively to what the market could bear. He could make $4, $5, $6, or $7 million a year to coach a college football team. Now, if the coaching salaries are indicative of how prolific the profit is in college football, why in the hell would it cost so much money to go there when it seems like the entire sports program could pay for 90% of the kids to go to school there with an efficiently run system? I don't get it. Who's making all the money? It doesn't jive for me. And I just simply, when I sit in those stadiums and see the hundreds of millions and swag and all the other things that are generated from these programs, how in the hell can they not figure out how to have it be equitable for a kid to go to school there? I don't freaking get it. So that's number one. Number two, if you can then justify to me why it makes sense for the average American kid to take on these crazy levels of debt, or the parents, or this huge burden to pay out of their pocket for their children to go to college, because somehow this magical little piece of paper is going to better their future, which I would contend the validity in that. I think it's just collective thought that we all say, well, as a company owner, we want to make sure our people did that next level. And really? You wouldn't want a school hard knocks, hard worker, entrepreneur working for you over a kid that his parents paid for college and he had enough grit to get a piece of paper that you don't even look at what college he went to unless it's Ivy League? I just don't get it. And then on top of that, we have been sold this bill of goods that to be successful in this country, that you're best served to have that piece of paper, and there's so many things that with that are so ridiculous. The average retention rate of a medical school student, some of the greatest minds in the world, is 17%. So people who operate on our bodies retain 17%. What does that mean? Well, that means they're learning on the job, which is great, cool, okay, apprenticeship. apprenticeship makes a hell of a lot more sense. Why aren't we endorsing apprenticeship? I mean, basically, that's what doctors are going through when they're in the emergency room slaving like they do. I mean, those are hardworking folks. I'm not taking anything away from doctors. But at the same time, if some of the greatest minds have a retention rate of 17%, why in the hell are we putting our kids in a position to pay loans till they're in their 40s to get a little piece of paper that somehow says they're more qualified for an occupation? It is ludicrous. And the last fact is, if we're going to stack up all these stupid things on top of other stupid things, then we're going to, after the 12th grade, make you take non-relevant courses towards the occupation you're trying to drive forward. You go to a liberal arts school, you have to take a certain amount of this and a certain amount of that. When I went to college, I went to a Nazarene school. I had to take 3 semesters of religious studies. I had to take an art. I had to take philosophy. I had to take a whole bunch of stuff that was super irrelevant to try to get my piece of paper to be a biologist. What in the hell? The opportunity for the modern day mentally held elite that drive the education system, that believe they know the best way, their right to force well-roundedness ends, in my opinion, when we start paying for it. So, and even that is contended, because we essentially, through our tax structure, are paying for our kids' education. But I can get well-rounding a kid up to high school. That makes sense to me. But when college is so crazy exorbitant, and then you're making a kid pay big money to take a course that's non-relevant to the occupation they're trying to get, and on top of it, you're charging exorbitant money, and he has the opportunity cost of about, I would say, 25% of the classes they're taking are irrelevant. Most of that first year. Now that's probably excessive. It's probably closer to 18%. But now if we take, that's $18,000 in debt, of $100,000 in debt to get an education. And then on top of it, you have the opportunity cost to earn that income. You had that whole year that you could have been earning money. I mean, it's big, crazy math paid with interest against you. How much that well-roundedness is being forced down your throat, and we're all just paying for it and going, okay, well, I guess that's the rules. Well, I would ask you guys whether you agree with that methodology, whether that makes sense to you. What do you think about all that? And I know, I mean, my YouTube channel's about pack goats and everything else, but, I like to be who I am and spur thought. And I know some of you are going to tell me that I'm a big jerk and that, all that different stuff. But you know what? I'm going to speak the truth of this for myself. And wherever it ends up, I'm cool with being disagreed with and having alternative thought. And, let's start a conversation about it. But I think to just accept the status quo and the current collegiate system and education system in general is the biggest mistake we're going to make. Hopefully this will start some conversation among some people, and then we'll go from there. So I'm curious of your thoughts as well, and leave them in the comments and share this with other people if you think this is valid. And just something. Mark's Distinctions, signing out.